everything is a go. All right, looks good. So we're gonna give everybody a few minutes get in here before we start answering questions. But we are gonna be live on 4 different platforms today. So if people want to ask, doesn't matter if you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. I should be able to see all of the comments, all of the questions. If you are a knucklehead, assume you're going to be banned. Just save you the trouble. We're not even going to bother answering you. Be respectful of not just myself, but everybody else in the chat. We're all doing this because we have fun, because we enjoy Commander. Don't make this an awkward place. We're trying to be cool here. Well, I'm trying to give y'all some insight because this is a brand new thing that got announced. Still new for us, so there may be some things that I'm not going to be able to answer. I know it's going to upset some people. This isn't because I'm dodging questions. It's just there are a lot of things right now that we're still working through. This is realistically only been decided for maybe a week at this point. So this is all still very new. So I just want to be clear about that for everyone. But yeah, this should be a fun stream. I don't think we're going to let it run too long. We're probably going to do it for about 45-ish minutes. So maybe take me to about 1:30 local time. But mostly just to answer some top-level questions. You know, if there's any confusion, if people are wondering how stuff's going to work, how do I feel about it, blah, 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 you can ask that here. So it's kind of going to be an open forum here. I got double beverages, so I should be good to go in my handy-dandy Outwork Everyone mug. Have links for my merch over on the YouTubes. If you want, as a matter of fact, I'm just going to put that in here now for people coming by. If you want to support me and my efforts and all the stuff we're going to be doing, let's do that. Also, I had somebody say, leave a comment today because, you know, they were curious about, since I don't make daily Commander content and I do standard content, why am I on the Commander format panel? Well, part of it is because I've been engaged with the format since nearly the beginning. I'm not just knowing Sheldon, but I knew a lot of judges as well, so I kind of played it with them. And I've experienced it as a player, you know, at the retail level. I've been at Wizards, you know, and understand how that works. And also, I still deal with a bunch of retailers on a regular basis that are involved with the format and have questions and everything from the format to how the products sell, all that stuff. So obviously still giving my input on all that stuff. And I do still do a lot of Commander content, but with my friends on their stuff. So you can see myself over on Decked Out. You can see me on Tabletop Jocks. I've been on a few others, but, you know, if you want to catch me, it's out there. So the first question from LevDev is, so I guess to start off, how do you feel about the current setup? Honestly, and again, everything here is going to be from my perspective, so others may feel differently about this, but I genuinely felt that eventually we were going to end up in this situation anyway, with Wizards kind of controlling the format. Not for any particular, like, negative reason. And again, this is me speculating, but I don't think Wizards even really wanted to control it. I think it was a matter of, think about it, as a company, you have a group of people who are willing to do all the work, research, take all the negative hits, you know, everything, and you get to benefit from it, right? That's a good deal for them. But I also think that unlike some of the other formats where you talk about like Pauper and different things that have their own format panel, Commander is so much bigger, you know, on an exponential level. And I think because of that, you just need more hands, more eyeballs, more direction, you know, whatever. I think there's just a lot that goes into it. So am I, you know, personally upset, happy? No, I think this is an interesting time, if nothing else. I think emotionally I'm a little bit ambivalent because it's, you know, it's just business, you know, it's just the way things are. But I do feel good about the people that they have in charge of it at Wizards. I do think a lot of the latest products have been very good, and I think the team they've assembled for the Commander format panel so far, even the people I didn't know, we've had discussions on Discord and stuff, and they're all very creative, intelligent, passionate. They represent a lot of different perspectives and backgrounds, and I think that's only going to be good, honestly. Brandon Roll says, congratulations on the position. I look forward to seeing how things shake out. I hope people give everyone on the panel respect and space to discuss the format. I hope so too, but you know, there's always knuckleheads. There's always going to be somebody who doesn't believe something. There's always people who have their mind made up. By the way, I hope you don't hear too much yard work. I scheduled this later because it seems like the whole neighborhood decided to do their yard work at the same time. So I'm hoping that doesn't come through too much. But yeah, there's always going to be somebody who thinks they know things they don't. There's always people. I literally saw people, even of the last round of, we'll call them problems, like making up things that 100% weren't true just to be able to say stuff on social media, to be able to make content. And that doesn't help anybody, right? If you don't know, just ask. Don't assume, because you're making disparaging comments at other people who are really working hard to try to make something fun for you. Let's see. Sonic TT1 says, offering y'all spots right off jump felt good to me. Honestly, glad your input will be factored in. Yeah, the approach was definitely different here. As a group, like before, you had like the rules committee and the commander advisory group. Like with the format panel, everybody's kind of on the same level, and then effectively answers to wizards, if you want to call it that, right? They get to make the final choice, but so far it does seem like they're taking a lot of our consideration and discussion into account into a lot of things here up front that we're still kind of working through. Syraxis Jack says, I just came in. Is Commander, EDH, or whatever coming to MTG Arena? Currently, no. However, there has been talk that they wanted to do that, I believe, in an announcement. Man, was that like beginning of the year when they said that? Or maybe late last year. But my guess is to do that is probably going to need a whole new UI, because I don't know how you put 4 commander battlefields on the screen currently and have them be visible to use. So I think that's still a little ways off. So right now I would say no. It's probably on the long time roadmap. But again, this is me just speaking as me. This isn't me knowing anything at Wizards. But just knowing what we know is coming already, it has to be behind that. So it's probably still a little ways off, if ever. Let's see. Jonah Ingo says, glad your voice will be part of this. Did you have any misgivings about the surviving non-disparagement clause? No, I think that was overrated. I think, like a lot of things, and I'm going to be very careful how I word this, because I don't want to like sound like I'm attacking anybody. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. But there are clauses in contracts that read as legalese because they have to read a certain way. Not necessarily because they're being weaponized for anything in particular. I can tell you as myself, I have worked with groups and stores and whatever that have gotten things from Wizards. I have worked at Wizards. I have since left Wizards, and I have worked on projects for Wizards. I have a podcast where when Wizards is screwed up, I have said things about it on my podcast, and they know it. They know my podcast exists. They have not done anything to come after me with any type of disparagement clauses or whatever, right? I think if you're just like working for them, even though it's on a contract, if you're just out here talking trash about them all the time, like, okay, sure, that gives them a reason to end the contract, because what good are you, right? You know, but that doesn't mean we also have to, for lack of a better term, kiss ass to Wizards all the time either. Like, as you saw in the announcement, and the same thing that's been shared privately, Gavin has said outright, he wants us all to keep having opinions. Like, they brought us in because we all have communities that we speak to, and we have different voices, and we have different wants and needs and opinions. They want that to continue. Plus, it would look bad to you as a fan or a viewer, right? If you were used to me saying certain things and judging certain things, and then all of a sudden I just don't. Like, that would be weird too. So yeah, as long as it's done creatively and with the purpose, nobody's going to be upset about anything. So yeah, I would say the clause, obviously, we all signed it. All of us, not all of us, many of us on the CFP have actually done work for Wizards before, been on contracts with Wizards before. Like, none of us have any issues with any of these, and we all signed it. It is totally okay. It's definitely an overblown thing that doesn't, it's just not a problem. I'll just say that. It's not a concern. Let's see. What else we got in here in the chat? Any idea how volatile the yearly rotations will be? No, we're not going to know that yet. Some of that's going to be discovered through how things work out this year, right? It's going to be, does this work for everybody's schedule? Have we seen success from these different discussions? Are there people that they feel important that they should bring in, right? Maybe people's level of popularity or importance or whatever changes. There could be a lot of reasons for it. And I also want it to be known that this, if somebody gets rotated out or in or whatever. This isn't just like reward and punishment, right? There could be a whole lot of different reasons somebody comes and goes. Like, for all we know, this might be the largest the group is going to be, right? We might do this and they might decide, man, what is it, like 18 people or something? It's a big group. But like, let's say, Gavin and crew at Wizard decide, okay, hey, this is working, but this is a lot to keep up with. Maybe we only need 12 people or something or whatever, right? Even that could be a thing. So I wouldn't take that in the future as anything other than just business, people serving their time, maybe stuff not working for them, whatever, if people come and go. But yeah, there will be rotation. We don't know if it's going to be so many people in, so many people out. I don't think there's a set number. It's just going to be a case-by-case basis. What else do we got? Do you think WotC will approach Commander with more fiscal approach? Okay, I see what you're saying. As assume banning Mana Crypt was not something that increased sales. I can't answer that, honestly. I mean, at the end of the day, everything's about business on some level, but I don't know. I don't think ultimately that Mana Crypt was a fiscal decision on sales, because the sales that were going to come from Mana Crypt have already mostly happened, right? I think there's a world where we can say, could that affect future sales? Because now that's a card that they don't have any reprint equity in, right? And it doesn't make sense to put that as a chase card in future products. So I think that's something that could be discussed. But generally, when cards, and even in the past with like Dockside and other things, whatever too, I think generally when cards are banned, it's mostly based on play value, not on sales. Now, being on the outside looking in, there have been some in recent times where you go like, are they just not banning this so they could sell a few more packs of the set before they ban it? Like, that's just speculation. Generally, though, like right now, we just had Ley Line of Resonance banned in Best of 1. If it continues to be a problem in Best of 3, it probably will get banned there as well. It's the newest set. I don't think they would still hesitate if it was making the format bad, which we'll know from Worlds here in a week because they play in Vegas, right? So I don't think, will it play a part? Yes, it can't not play a part, right? That's just business. But do I think the decisions will be based strictly on the fiscal aspect? No, I don't think so. Plus, to be honest, if the entire CFP says, hey, this card's a problem, then they're going to run a plan and say, hey, this card's a problem. We need to do something about it, right? Doesn't really matter what the card's valued at. Let's see. What else do we have here? You've had a lot of experience with upset customers and bad actors. How much of the experience will you be sharing with the panel? And as WotC will be training you all, is there even talk about this? Thanks. Sadly, if people ever need help or ask questions or whatever, we always reach out to each other. We do that anyway. There's not a lot of training to be done, to be honest. Like, you can literally tell people, like, and to be fair, behind the scenes, Gavin has done some of that even with the lead up to the announcement of like, hey, y'all don't have to answer every question. You can go ahead and just tell them this. You can direct them at this place if you don't feel comfortable answering. And that's kind of like the best you can do, because every single case that happens, somebody's going to be different. The way people act toward people is going to be different. Just like last time, the hate Olivia got was different than the type of hate I got, right? It's just going to be completely different. And there's not a way to prepare for that if you just haven't dealt with it before, unfortunately. If we ever want help or we ever want direction, Wizards has always been able to assist or whatever. I can even tell you, just last week, I had a follow-up from the people with Wizards and ReadPop that are running the Vegas Magic Con this weekend, asking, hey, because of the stuff with the Commander things, if you feel you need extra security, if you need a place to get away, we're going to have this set up, you can have this thing. So they're not hanging us out to dry by any stretch, if that's what you're worried about. Mike Wood, hello. Jazzy J says, how do you think the new bracket system should impact the ban list? Well, that's going to be a long discussion. I don't even know if I could answer that right now, because we don't know what the final bracket system is going to look like, right? That's going to be the biggest thing. And some of that will also come down to, as a group, how we decide those tolerances should be handled, right? If we say a card is too good, but it's, I don't know, let's say in bracket 3 that, the super most competitive or whatever, and the people who play that are okay with it, then maybe we don't ever ban it. But if it's still a problem, not saying we're banning it, but using it as an example here, because it's a competitive card. But like Thassa's Oracle, right? If we see that card showing up a ton in that format to the point that like that's what half the games are being decided by, then we'll still say, yeah, it's in bracket 3, but we probably still need to ban it, right? So I don't know if the bracket's going to directly affect that or not. We'll see, but we don't even know what all needs to go in each bracket level yet. We don't know the messaging around it yet. We even have a whole Discord just discussing it and what it should look like and what cards should go where and why cards should be in each one. Like, it's a long way from being decided at the very least before we can start giving those types of opinions around it. Jazzy says yearly rotation can be a good thing to bring in new voices. Yeah, that could be also part of it too, right? Let's say, I don't know this, but like, let's say I'm just going to make up a country, but like Indonesia, right? It just starts blowing up with commander players. Then it's like, okay, we should bring somebody in from there because we need to have insight on why this is happening. Like, where is it happening? Like, are more stores starting to carry it and play it or whatever, right? Having boots on the ground effectively would be important. So stuff like that, I think, could be a reason that people get brought in for sure. But I'm sure, Gavin and company have a whole lot of other reasons that they might want somebody in too. I mean, at the end of the day, we also function kind of as product research, right? From different points of the globe with different levels within the community, with different play styles. Like, there's a lot to be gained by having different people involved. So obviously, benefits of diverse backgrounds and all that stuff. Let's see, Scott Ware, do I think the tier deck ranking will exclude cEDH since that's kind of its own animal as it is? Oh boy. I don't know if I'd say exclude. I think it will be taken into consideration. I would assume, and again, this is just assuming because none of this is in stone yet, but anything competitive will probably be tier 3 or whatever the highest power level we ultimately decide on is, right? So I don't know if that's not taking into consideration as much as just saying, like, if you're playing these cards, you're probably playing competitive, right? I think that's more of how that will probably read. But I'll also say this, since I'm sure people will ask, because I've mentioned this before, previously and stuff, and before people say, what, but you said before, I'm not the biggest fan of a bracket system anyway. I think there's more to be learned from just language around stuff when you sit down, which I use all the time. I can talk about it more in Vegas if you see me or whatever. That's probably a whole separate video, and I'll probably do that at some point. But I am still working through the process and giving my input on the bracket system because maybe I'm wrong, right? I could still be won over if everybody else gets on board and, I can be talked into it. And truthfully, without giving away too much, like, we've started to evaluate a whole bunch of cards and like what goes in what bracket and what should or shouldn't even be on the brackets and blah, blah, right? And there's some good conversations coming from a lot of those about how different groups view different cards, the effects they have on the game. Are they cards that lead to a win? Are they cards that just draw the game out? Like, there's a bunch of things. And some of it too comes down to like, what type of experiences are you hoping to have come from the brackets? So again, me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I'm not going to undermine it either because I think there's still a lot of good discussion and research that could come from this. Even if it doesn't last forever, it's something that we can put out into the world and maybe we learn something and maybe we find the next best thing. I think it's all just part of the process. Pharmacist just says, I like brackets to help illustrate common taboos of Commander. Sure, but that's kind of part of the concern too, right? Like, is that all we're doing? Is that making games better? Or, which is my other issue, is that are gamers going to game? And what I mean by that is, if somebody says, all right, I know what's in each bracket. Well, I will build the most competitive thing I can build without including these bracket 2 cards or higher, or bracket 3 cards or higher, right? Just so they can still have the most degenerate deck to beat up on the lesser player, right? Big fish, small pond, right? Which we see happen at the retail level already, right? People want to show up with their competitive thing and beat up on the casual pre-con decks or whatever. Now, admittedly, most players may not use the bracket that way, and it might be totally fine. But it is something I've at least addressed and said, hey, this is a concern I have because I know behavior of people at that level, right? So I don't know if we're going to solve things with the bracket, but it's at least a first step, right? Because I think if nothing else, opening those discussions is a very positive thing, right? It at least puts us on the right part of thinking and gets us talking about this different stuff, you know, talking about each of these experiences, so that maybe we find the best. Because ultimately, I think what we all want, whether you're a retailer, a player, whatever, is you want to have something where people show up and people are at least getting the common game experience that they expect, right? Where everybody's deck does a thing, people go back and forth, somebody wins, somebody loses, nobody feels bad because, one person stomped the table in turn 4 when everybody thought they were going to be playing a 10-turn game, right? And because honestly, if you're being real about it, if you are that competitive player that has the deck with the tutors and the counters and whatever, and like you go up against a bunch of decks that aren't on the same level, I don't even know why that's fun. Like, you won, but you didn't really play a game of Magic. Like, there wasn't even really any resistance. It's like, what was the point, right? I mean, obviously, there's the people that win at all costs, and that's the most fun, and get good, scrub, or whatever, those people. But ultimately, I think we just want to make it to where when you sit down, whatever level of conversation it is you're having, or brackets that you're following, or point system, or whatever we settle on, like, you can go buy a thing and at least get close to what you expect in an environment with strangers, right? I think when you're talking about your friends or your local group or whatever, that's totally different because everybody knows each other and it's a lot easier to just kind of get on the same page. But, like when I go to Vegas this weekend, if I sit down to play Commander with people, we'll have to have a quick chat to be like, okay, what type of Commanders are you playing? Like, how many turns are we expecting to go? Whatever. And then that way we can make sure the decks that everybody's playing kind of fall in that same realm. Because that can be difficult when you don't know everybody, you don't know everyone's play style, what you're used to. I mean, I matter of fact, I believe it was in Chicago I sat down with the player where they assumed Commander was a certain way because everybody in their pool plays like stacks decks and all this ridiculousness. And I felt bad because I had to eliminate that player first just so the other 2 people could even play Magic, right? And that's not any fun for anybody. Like, 2 people sat there for the first 8 turns of the game. I basically attacked one person and thwarted their stuff just to get them off the table so the other 2 could play Magic. And then the first person didn't really get to do anything, right? So it's just like, that's not a good experience for everybody at the table. And talking to them afterwards, they were just like, oh, I just thought this is what we did because, I always have to worry about this. And this person always does. It's like, they hadn't played Commander outside of their local pool, so they didn't even know anything was different. Like, they thought they were like a mid-level deck, right? So that's where it can be a little difficult sometimes. And it's just like figuring out how to keep those situations from happening. Let's see. Have you or other members considered a month or 2 of no ban lists as a thought experiment? Kind of like how silver bordered cards were legal for a while. No, we haven't even had that thought, and I don't think that's a good idea. I just don't. I think people want to do... I like the idea in every format. Like, no ban, whatever, always comes up. And everything's degenerate. Like, that's the whole point, right? If you like playing degenerate Magic, just you and your friends build decks that don't have ban lists and go nuts. I would personally not ever want to sit down in a no ban list anything format. I think that's just not fun Magic. Like, at that point, if you're not playing at least a handful of the banned cards, why are you even playing? You know what I mean? Like, you're just going to have infinitely worse things going on in your deck. There's going to be combos opened up, multiple turns going off, just like all kinds of things that just don't lead to fun stuff. So right now, that has at least not been a real serious consideration or conversation that I've seen pop up. LevDev says, what is the primary responsibilities of people on the panel to help clarify for people? Is it just Discord chats, meetings, or more to it? For each person, that's going to be a little bit different, right? For somebody... just using it as an example, which, by the way, I'm going to bring up Lewis Stardust here because I think she's doing a live stream Q&A type thing later as well today. But Lua is going to be very centered on the competitive side of Commander, right? What the events look like, what should the band stuff look like for competitive stuff, whatever, right? For me, I visit a lot of stores. I go to a lot of events, right? I talk to a lot of the most casual of players, right? That's what I'm focused on. I'm focused on that and on the retail stuff. So what I'm bringing to the table and how I approach it is going to be different than the stuff that Lou is doing. You know, there's some other people that only do online stuff, right? That environment's going to have a different group of people, and that engagement level is going to be different. You know, at the end of the day, we're all trying to bring our input as there are questions or ideas or things brought up. Like right now, you know, some of it is structure and what they need from us or whatever. Some of it is the bracket system, you know, like that's a thing. There's a few other things I can't talk about yet that have been discussed or at least brought up, you know, that we'll be working on. And each of those will have a different need or want. There may be a point where some of us are going to be required to head up some research or be in charge of something or whatever, right? Like it'll just be different for each person. And we're all in different parts of the world. And that's going to actually require some different work as well. So I don't think there's like one assigned role as much as the goal of the committee is to, or the panel, I should say, is to bring all these different backgrounds, thoughts, processes together so that the best decision for the format can be made so it continues to be good, continues to be positive, that there tends to be tons of players, you know, continues on the way it's been so that everybody's happy playing the format. And of course, Wizards still makes money selling a bunch of Commander product. All right, let's see what else we got here. Definitely the pub stompers are going to be there. Yeah, no doubt. If no bracket, in your opinion, is it rule 0 point system using? I'll do a separate video at some point. I don't want to get into it deep here because I think it kind of derails the conversation a little bit. But I do generally have a thing with just 2 or 3 questions I ask people at every table when I sit down. And except for that one example I gave you, every gameplay experience has been good since I've been asking those questions. It's not really a rule 0 thing, as more as just setting up the expectations or understanding the expectations of every player. To me, has been the strongest method that I've found. Let's see. Pharmacist Judge says, like there are some cards like Mindslaver, which are really some people absolutely detest. Yeah, anything that takes your turn, I just don't think feels good to the casual player. I think all of the Eldrazi feel really bad to the casual player. One, because there's some that take your turns, but others because of like Annihilator and whatever. There's just some cards that lead to negative play experiences, right? Not even, and that's another good conversation to have, right? That's kind of part of the talk as well. It's like, should we have something on a level 1 or level 2 bracket that isn't necessarily busted, let's say, right? It's not bad enough that we're considering banning it, but it leads to an overwhelmingly large negative feeling among a bunch of the players at the casual level, right? And maybe, you know, something like a Mindslaver, just as an example, right? Let's say if we felt, okay, this card's strong, but not enough to ban it, but every time it comes up, it leaves people with bad feelings, right? If every survey we send out or every test we do or whatever comes back with people not liking this card that's in play, maybe that should be on a bracket somewhere, right? To be like, hey, if you're bringing this, just know that, like, this is going to be a bad experience for a lot of people. You know, like, that's kind of where these discussions in the bracket system come in a little bit on, like, what should go on what level and why, right? And everybody's got a different opinion why. Hell, I can tell you, well, I can't tell you the cards, but we've had talks about a couple of cards already where even when we viewed it to be a powerful card, it was for completely different reasons on how it affected the game state. So now that has to be a discussion, right? Which of these is more common? How many people feel more like this or the other, right? So there's going to be a lot of conversations go around about a lot of cards. Do not release the Mox Black Lotus. I will tell you right now, nothing big has been discussed for being unbanned. Now, we have had talks about unbanning things, but those talks were already started from the previous Rules Committee Commander Advisory Group stuff. As of this time, there's nothing slated, but not to say it won't happen in the future. But I know people are going to ask, like, unban this. Have you talked about it? I'm just heading that off. Like, yes, it's part of the normal discussions, as it should be. But right now, there's nothing planned at the moment. Let's see. If you did a non-ban list, the Power 9 instantly show up, proxy in every deck, or they lose. Yeah, probably. Then Jazzy says, yes, I remember now. We actually had the conversation over the summer. Your questions were solid. Yeah. And like I said, if people want that video, I may work on that over the weekend while I'm in Vegas if I have a chance, because that'll be a good environment to kind of put that to the test and get some footage, and maybe I can get it out next week if people really want that. But I think it's really simple. It's just like 3 quick questions, and it helps everybody get on the same page. Omega MTG says, is cEDH going to be considered a different format? At this time, there has not been discussion on making it a different format. And truthfully, I've gone both ways on it, but I ultimately settled on, I don't know if it really needs to be a separate format. If anything, you're likely just going to end up with 1 or 2 more cards banned. Like I've said earlier, something like Thassa's Oracle, and I don't mind mentioning the card because everybody's talked about it, right? Like, it's kind of on the cusp of being too good even for competitive formats and stuff. So, like, that could end up getting banned, and it's like, fine, we can't play it at all because of competitive players, but, like, it's not a loss to the casual players either. So, I don't know why we would need a separate list, right? Now, there's some people saying they want a separate ban list just to unban something so it's available in competitive Commander, which I get, but at the same time, my other argument is also, like, we have what? We're encroaching on like 40,000 Magic cards or something available now, over 35k or something. Like, we still have a lot of cards to play with and a lot to pick from, and unbanning 1 or 2 of those cards, I don't know if necessarily makes the format better other than just giving people another option, but there's already a lot of options. So I would probably need to be talked into something a lot more compelling to say that it needs to be a whole separate format. But right now, there's no discussion on making it separate. Not to say it won't be in the future, but right now, it isn't a priority conversation. LevDev says, can't wait for Vegas. Be a busy but fun time. Yeah, if it's anything like Chicago, we're going to be way busy all weekend. But it's great. By the way, if y'all find me in Vegas, I have lots of goodies to give away. So you should come by. I don't know why I'm like changing this up for a quick self pitch, but I have my little stickers. If you want some PowrDragn stickers, I also have this box. I got to open this box. And I already started packing stuff up. But I got these new treasure tokens that I'll be handing out, and some 2/2 creatures. So if you need those will be the new ones. So if you find me, I'll have those give away to people. Also, I have some other little prizes from some discontinued tokens I'll be giving away as well. Among MT says, sorry if it's been asked, I just got here. No problem. We're just answering stuff. Jackalite says, Thoracle limits design space for Altwind by being so good. Yeah, probably on some level. I mean, I think that's also a consideration that we've seen over the years. And this is separate from any of the panel or commander advisor group stuff or whatever. But I think we've seen some stuff where, like, you see some cards made and you sort of get the feeling that, okay, well, now we can't do anything in this space because this card's always going to be a problem, or this card's always going to be a consideration. You know, kind of like what happened with Primeval Titan, right? As we get more and more quality lands that do fun stuff, it's like, well, Primeval Titan would have just kept being more and more ridiculous. So at some point, it makes its way to the ban list, because just like, otherwise, if you're playing green at all, you probably need to be playing Primeval Titan, or you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage, right? Let's see. A Mega MTG says, never been to an event. Closest LGS is about 45 minutes away, and I've never been there. Wow! I hope you get to at least go to a game store at some point. I think it's worthwhile, honestly. Meeting people, getting to see other ideas, getting to be part of a community, regular events, you know, I think all of those are good and positive things. And that's why I'm a big proponent, and kind of what I'm bringing to the table is like, hey, let's keep that environment in our conversations and in our chats, and keep those, you know, local, tabletop, casual, kitchen table players, whatever, you know, as part of the discussion. Because at the end of the day, whether people want to admit it or not, it doesn't matter if it's Magic or some other game, the casual players sell way more and buy way more than any other player group in any game. I mean, even if it doesn't matter, video games, whatever, because the average person's never going to do anything competitive. They just don't. But they are responsible for a lot of the sales, right? Even when people used to argue that with me, I said, okay, if only competitive engaged players are the ones that are at the top and that you should be buying stuff, whatever, like, why do we have stuff at Walmart and Walgreens and Target and whatever, right? The most engaged players aren't going there to buy Magic. But it's there because a lot of people do buy Magic that don't know all these other resources exist or whatever, but they are shopping there, and Wizards can move a lot of product there, right? So it says that the casual players do matter and are important, and we have to kind of keep having those conversations. Let's see. The birthing pod problem. Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier, right? Birthing pod also made it to where you can just keep getting all kinds of stuff and combo things. Magic thrives at the LDS. I agree. Let's see. Omega MTG says, I've been in the game store about an hour away, but it wasn't an LGS. It was more like Geek Heaven. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Hey, as long as you can get your stuff there. LevDev says, last question for them. Is there anything you want people to know about the panel that hasn't been asked? Ooh, that's a good question. Anything that hasn't been asked that people should know? I think it just needs to be reiterated for the people who maybe just got here that no one on the panel so far in any way, shape, or form has been asked to go and be a mouthpiece for Wizards. Nobody has been asked to, I don't know, like make Wizards look good or anything like that. Like, it's been, I won't say the opposite, but at least we have been encouraged to keep giving our own opinion, to keep making the content that we're making, right? If we don't like something, we can say we don't like something. Hell, Gavin has said in those express words, that, hey, if we don't like something, we're free to talk about it, right? That's totally okay. Like, they're not trying to change that. They're not trying to shape the narrative or anything like that. That's just not what they're doing. Plus, to be honest, over time, it would just be a bad look for everybody. Like, there's no real benefit to it. And let's be real. Like, does Wizards need us, like, patting them on the back or whatever? Like, no, they're doing plenty well already, right? They will be fine with or without our small communities, each or opinions being whatever they are, right? But our goal is to be as invested and bring as much insight as we can to help things be better and be good, continuing to go forward, right? That way. That's what we're here for. So, yeah, I think that's probably the message I just wanted to put back out there, just so people know, like, this wasn't Wizards trying to, I don't know, make a PR group, I guess is how people seem to view it. That's not it at all. Now, do I think all the people in the group make for good PR people? Yeah. Like, they are good at what they do. Most of us are very public, right? A bunch of us have different social media, YouTube stuff, TikTok stuff, whatever. So some of that will happen anyway, naturally. And yes, that's probably part of the reason we were all chosen, but we're not like beholden to any particular thing. Death by Vulture says, congratulations. I trust you will help make good decisions on the future of the format. I hope so. Omega MTD says, the contract was what I was worried about for the members of the panel. Everybody's fine. We addressed that at the beginning of the stream. It's a non-issue, honestly. I will tell you, anybody who's watched my podcast knows that if Wizards does something messed up, we talk about it. And there's been no backlash. And this is coming from somebody who's been on contract and stuff with Wizards. I've worked for Wizards, whatever. And none of those things have ever been an issue. Gavin is the right person and fully supports the panel to speak their mind. He loves this game and he wants to be like, I'll be honest, like, if you've never met Gavin Verhey in person, he is a genuinely nice, lovable human. Like, seriously. And I'm not saying that just because, like, I'm now technically sort of kind of working with Gavin. Like, I worked with Gavin before at Wizards. I said it then. I said it after I left Wizards. Like, Gavin is genuinely a great person. He does care about the format. It's great that he is our point of contact for all of this and kind of moving forward on it all. Like, it feels like things are in good hands. I will say that. Like, you at least have the right people in. Now, again, at the end of the day, Gavin isn't the CEO of Wizards and he's, like, whatever. But you do have the feeling he will genuinely put a good word in. He will fight for what needs to be fought for, and whatever happens after that happens. But just know that with us on the ground level, and I will effectively say Gavin being the middleman, you've at least got the right people going to bat for you. Let's see. At the end of the day, I will trust the panel to do what is best for format. I hope so. And I think, like all things, especially coming off the stuff that happened with the Commander Advisory Group kind of at the end there, some people are still upset. They're always going to be upset. They're going to be rattled. They're never going to trust anything. And that's okay. Like, it happens. That's human nature. There's a lot behind the scenes that went down on all that. And it's a whole thing. So, history is history. But going forward, I believe everybody involved so far, including Wizards, including Gavin, have at least put things in place to put their best foot forward and give this the best chance. And I think that's all you can really ask for. Let's see. Patrick Tatum says, please evaluate demonic consultation and tainted packs. Evaluate them for what? I'm confused by the question. Like, they're good tutors and can allow combos? Like, I don't... I'm confused by the question. I mean, what are we needing to evaluate? Gavin is a great bloke. I 100% agree. Mega says, whoever made the threats should be prosecuted. There was no reason for that. That's all on an individual basis. I can't talk about any of the stuff going on with any people that did have their personal lives threatened or doxxed or anything else. But some of them may be pursuing legal action, and I don't blame them for it, honestly. I've had to do it previously with my business. Just growing up, kind of grew up in business, but having my business in the Bible Belt in the South, there were a lot of not nice things said and done, threats that were made many times for no reason at all. And yeah, we kind of had to get familiar with the authorities a few times. So yeah, it doesn't matter if it happens in person or it happens online. Like, I think those people should be punished. Let's see, who else do we have left? Their presence in the commander format specifically. Yeah, fair. Omar Rar, or Vanderbunny, as it says, making time to answer our questions proves you're a great choice for the panel. Thanks again for the transparency and opinions. Yeah, I've always been fairly open about pretty much anything that's not under an NDA. Like, if people want to know, I'll talk about it. Like, I don't see a reason not to. I think it's totally reasonable. I will say this, and this is going to sound a little weird to some people. I do think there's some things people often want to know about things that, one, they don't need to know, and two, don't really affect what they think it affects. So that can make some weird conversations sometimes, because people think, I need to know about this, and I'll ask them, like, but what do you really gain by knowing that or not knowing that, right? And it's usually nothing, but they still got to know, and that becomes a whole weird thing. But generally, like I said, I'll talk about a lot of stuff. I don't think there's a reason to worry about it. I don't think there's even, honestly, with the whole CFP, I don't think there's anything really even remotely secretive to even be worried about, right? I mean, like, it's like, I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know if there's anything that is, I mean, like, for obvious reasons, we can't talk about, like, cards we're discussing and we don't want to put stuff out on, like, the bracket system before it's done, because we don't want to, like, get a narrative started that's not accurate or whatever. But nothing that I would say is like, oh my God, if the public finds out about this, none of that stuff even. I think a lot of times people think that stuff exists in more, not even just this situation, but I think in more situations than actually does exist. It's often just not even a thing. People think that it is because, again, people make up their own conspiracy theory negatives or narratives for all types of stuff. But ultimately, it's often, the truth isn't as exciting as you think it is. What else do we got here? Scott Ware says, thank you for all you do. It's great seeing how diverse the panel is as well, and not just diverse playstyles. Love seeing that. Yeah, it's a big deal, because we ended up getting, I believe we have somebody from Brazil, we have somebody from Japan, right? Like, they've definitely done their homework, and Gavin purposely reached out to people from around the globe. There's both men and women, there's people of different ethnic backgrounds, there's people with different interests, there's people at different competitive levels. Like, it's a pretty good selection of people, honestly, of, even as far as our content is different, right? Some of us do full-time stuff, some are part-time, some do no content, some do like podcasts, some do YouTube stuff. So, like, we're covering all the different bases of how people might interact with the game, which I think is very good. So if something comes up in some space, in some part of the world, hopefully there will be somebody who can speak confidently on it in discussions. I think that's mostly what you're aiming for. What else? Let's see. Now it says, is 1 to 4 realistic? Now I got to back up and see, what am I missing? Is 1 to 4 real? I think I lost train of conversation somewhere here. 1 to 4 what? Donna, I'm not sure I'm following. Magic cards are made of humans. You know, if I ever found that out, that might be the time I walk away from the game. Like that would be the thing that makes me go, you know what? I'm out. You know. Let's see. Why not AI determine power level based on arena data to identify synergies, and then the commander players upload deck lists for evaluations? Because AI has built-in biases depending on how they're programmed. Also, I would say greater than 90% of the people you interact with will never play a game online. Or I say that interact with the product and the format will never play a game online. And that's going to be part of your problem. There's always the issue with gaming as a whole, but I would say a lot of products is trying to account for what we'll call your unseen customers, right? Because if you play on Magic Online, you play on Arena, you play Brawl, you play whatever, right? You're making deck lists on EDH Rec, whatever. We can have all that data because those are the most enfranchised player using all the resources. But I literally told somebody that, and people do not believe this. I have been to multiple stores and talked to players or been having a conversation with somebody about something online and have literally been asked, what's a game nights? Or we're talking about something a professor did, and they're like, who's the professor? Hell, that's shocking, right? And people don't believe that's a thing because you and I, we are heavily engaged and invested players. But somebody who just buys their commander deck and shows up to their local store every Thursday or every Saturday or whatever and plays their 4 or 5 games of commander and goes home, they're not involved in all the Twitter beef going on or whatever, right? They don't know this stuff. So, I mean, think about this. As big as a professor and game nights and whatever are, they still get new subscribers from people finding them every day, right? Not everybody knows they exist. So trying to use AI on something like that to make our decision wouldn't even be accurate. Hell, to be honest, there's a lot of people who build stuff online who maybe don't ever even own the cards. Like there's somebody tried to use the data from EDH Rec to say, oh, well, there's this many Jeweled Lotuses in the world or whatever. And like that's not accurate because a bunch of people have deck lists with cards they don't own. Or they've made 50 deck lists, but they're just rotating that same card between all those decks in person, right? So the data wouldn't be accurate to solve most of the stuff we'd be trying to solve. Oh, Donna says for the rating system, 1 through 4. Again, I think that's really hard because, like, if we sit down and have, and even the group, we've had cards where, let me think of an obvious one so it's not like giving up anything in a conversation. But let's say like Cyclonic Rift, right, as a card. Because everybody knows Cyclonic Rift's a popular card, people play it, right? There's a lot of times I see Cyclonic Rift cast, and somebody's just casting it just to not lose. Not even because they have a way. Like, I've literally asked somebody when they cast Cyclonic Rift, do you have a way to win the game in the next couple turns? And they say no, and I'm like, well, could you just not cast it then? Like, even when I'm not winning, I'm just like, just let them win here in a turn or two so we can get another game started. Like, what are we doing, right? But then other people have said, like, oh, every time I see it cast, it's like somebody just wins in 2 turns. And it's just like, oh, okay. So then how do we rate that on a number scale? Right? Because for me, like, as far as annoyance, that's at least a 3. 4 is like, I think we absolutely should be putting this on a watch list probably for me, but that may feel different for somebody else. For me, it's like a 3. Like, nothing positive really comes from the card. It just draws games out more often. It's always a feel bad, whatever. But somebody else might go, that card's like a 2. You know what I mean? Like, if it just leads to the end of the game, fine. It's a big mana spell. It does what it does. But, right? So I think point systems are always tough. And I don't think we'll ever come to a clean agreement that everybody... And then, even once the group decides on a thing, we'll inevitably have to hear 85,000 posts of people going, I can't believe the group decided that this card needs to be a 3-point card, or, you know, whatever. Like, and it's hard, I think, because we also start asking, again, the most casual players to know way more, right? Now they can't just build a deck. They have to go look at all these charts and whatever. I think it works for something like Canadian Highlander, where if you want to play certain cards, you get so many points worth of cards. And, you know, most cards are 0, but all the high value cards have different point values side to them. And if you want to play those, you have to pick and choose whatever. But Commander Highlander, or Canadian Highlander, is also made for competitive. It's made for the most engaged players, right? It makes sense. I think when you have something that involves so many casual levels players, you need it to be as simple as possible while solving their problems. And that's a hard rubric to solve sometimes. I think they're, let's see, what do we got here? As a bonus, as I'm already signing into Companion so the store can get credit, the app might also suggest deck matchups. That's tough. Because okay, a good example is I've had a Rith Commander deck since the beginning of the format. When I sit down, I have to tell people, like, oh, this isn't Rith to be able to worry about making all the Saproling tokens. Like, I will sometimes if that's, like, the right play for the game, but I'm really just playing Rith so I have the colors, so I can ramp up and play all the big dumb creatures that I'm not normally ever getting to play with. That's literally why I built the deck, to play with a bunch of big creatures I don't play with. So, you couldn't really say, like, oh, Rith is going to be a good matchup for this type of deck, because, like, my deck's built different. So, like, you can't even just base that on commanders, unfortunately. Gotta go. Still appreciate your insight. Hey, no problem. Thanks for stopping by, Dev. Hey, Wolf6915. How's it going? Patrick. Yep. All right. Omega MTG says, that's true. I have about 30 virtual decks that most likely won't make it to paper. Yeah, exactly. All right. Derek Lewis says, 1 draft, 2 precon, 3 without banned reserve, 4 all cards. All right. Don't know where that's going. William the Pac Mac says, I chose a perfect time to jump in. I appreciate the transparency so much. Hey, you're welcome. That's what this was for. If anybody has questions, you can come in and ask. Let's see. What else do we have here? I'm going to check, make sure I'm not missing anybody on any platforms here who had questions that wanted to ask. All right, cool. I think we're going to go for probably about another, let's call it 10 minutes or so. So if you have any other questions related to Commander, I would say even Vegas, since that's coming up this weekend, or just Commander format panel stuff, anything related to content, now's your chance to ask. Like I said, we're going to go for about 10 more minutes, and I think we'll have taken care of everybody with about a good hour's worth of question answering. Also, it would be good to reference this later, so if people ask me, I can just link them back to this stream. But yeah, I think overall, 10 minutes and we can play a game. No, we are not playing a game. I have an actual meeting at 2 o'clock. And then I have to go get all this taken care of so I look decent in Vegas. And then I have to record a podcast. Then I have to edit a video. And then I have to record another podcast. Then I have to edit another video. So yeah, I'm going to have a very busy evening because I got to catch a flight tomorrow at like 3 in the afternoon so I can get to Vegas. Facts. It's like everyone who plays Progenitus. Yeah, I see that and I feel like that's a lie. You'll never, yeah. You can't tell what somebody's deck is just by their commander. And, like somebody might have a commander and then, like I said, it's a theme deck, right? So, like, it might look like a boring or competitive commander one way or the other. But then, like, a good example is we played, I think I told this story on stream before. Or actually, I think I told it when Sheldon passed, actually. But, sat down and played a person who their deck really only had the commander for theme because it was all a farm theme deck. You know what I mean? Like, so just like, I have no way of knowing that if I just see their commander and want to like rank stuff to play against other things. It would just be weird. No games for you then. Make up for it in Vegas. In reality, here's the thing. I don't play a ton of games when I'm at these Magic Cons. I spend a lot of time making content, doing meet and greets, giving out, doing giveaway stuff. I think last time I set up a trivia thing and had prizes in Chicago. If I have stuff to do on the main stage, I do that. I might I do, like this time I'll be doing a thing with the VIPs. So I'll play at least one game of Commander with them, maybe 2. And then, man, I think usually on those weekends, if I play 4 games of Commander, that's probably a lot of Commander. Actually, that's not true. I think also in Chicago, I played the Commander and Cocktails to support Brian David Marshall and his thing he was doing. So, yeah, I think I only played 4 games. I played 1 for fun, 1 with the Commander, 2 with the Commander and Cocktails thing. So that's 3. I played 1 with the VIPs was 4, and then I didn't. I hung out with some people that were playing during LobbyCon after the convention, but I didn't play. So I only played 4 the whole weekend, even in Chicago. I would like to suggest Historic Brawl have the same rules and ban lists as Commander. That's not a bad idea, realistically. And for me, the logic holds that if, and this has been brought up before, which I agree with, is that if the fundamentals of the format are the same, except for the fact that it's 1v1, because that's all you can do in Arena, you should have the same cards banned. Like, if a card's banned in Commander, it should be banned in Brawl. It doesn't, I mean, like, yes, there's some difference between 4 players and 2 players or whatever, but it's just easy to say, like, the ban lists are the same and just make it like Commander Junior. I don't have a problem with that. Commander games take a long time. Yes, they do. Some of them, but yes. And that's kind of the problem too, right? Because, like, let's say I have a meet and greet scheduled, or I have a thing scheduled with the VIPs. I don't want to start a game at 1 o'clock to be like, man, all right, if this game doesn't finish in 10 minutes, I just got to pack up and rush off, right? And then leave the table with a negative game experience or whatever, right? So I try to avoid that as well. So usually, if I'm playing a game of Commander, I don't have anything planned for 2 hours at least, or I've already kind of been done with everything for the day, usually when I'm playing. Alex Martin says, are there any members of the panel you hadn't met before you were excited to interact with as part of the panel? I'm trying to go through the list. There's definitely some I hadn't met before, but I also didn't know them at all. You know, especially like Itetu, I think it is, from Japan, and the person from Brazil. Like, I didn't know them at all. I didn't even know they, not to disparage them, but because I didn't follow their content or whatever, I didn't even know they existed, you know, prior to coming together in the Discord and the meeting for the first time. So that alone is neat, because now there's people, not just that I didn't know, that make content I didn't know about. They're from a whole different part of the world, right? So that's always going to be interesting, because one of the things that's a big deal right now is that Japan is starting to see some movement in Commander. And that might sound weird to people, but anybody knows anything about card games in Japan is that they are very competitive. Like, they're competitive first. Like, even when I worked for Wizards, anytime we talked about stuff we could do and provide retailers, like, Australia would be asking for something for stores, and like the Brazilians would be asking a couple things for their players, and like the Americans want some stuff for their stores. And then Japan was just like competitive. Like, what about promos? What about tournaments? What about, you know, like that's just how they operate. So seeing Commander get traction there is actually really cool, and having somebody there representing that and talking about it, you know, being in the heart of it, is also really neat. Panthro says, hey, PowrDragn, did the World Championship decks release yet? I do not know. I got up, I edited some things, I prepped the stream, and I've been talking to people for the last almost hour. So if they went up, I would not know. But they're supposed to go up sometime today or tomorrow to prep everybody who wants to follow along for the World Championships this weekend in Vegas. So I would assume if they're not up, they will be shortly. MugMT says, I only know about half the members, and I follow everyone who streams EDH gameplay on Twitch. You know, that's the thing right now, right? There are a lot of good content creators, not even just on the panel, like even outside of the panel. There's groups that are doing stuff. There's individuals doing stuff. There's stores doing stuff, right? There is good content all over the place. So don't feel bad that you don't know everybody. Like, we each didn't know all of each other. You know what I mean? Like, there's only a couple of handfuls of us, and we didn't know each other completely. Even now, when I make content, there'll be people who go like, oh, did you see what so-and-so did to this version of the deck? Or did you see so-and-so? And it's like, I didn't even know who that was till somebody mentioned it, right? Because within any format, there might be hundreds of creators, right? And if we're spending a lot of time making content, we don't have time to watch more than a handful of other people's videos every week, because they all take time, right? A lot of them I listen to in my ear while I'm editing my stuff, and I'm not even watching some of their videos. I'm just putting it on in the background so I can support other creators, right? They get credit for the video being on. Like, and honestly, it'd be cool if y'all did the same. But just saying, like, that's just the thing. Like, I'm just helping other people out. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, that sounds interesting. And I'll take like 10 minutes and watch kind of what's going on the screen, go back to editing or whatever. So yeah, it's an interesting experience trying to follow all the creators there, because there's a lot of good content out there right now. The content game really has come up, and I feel bad for the people who think you just turn on a camera and a microphone and people are going to show up, and they struggle for a long time, because like, this is like any other job, and it's getting more and more serious. Like, you got to research your tools, you got to research your presentation, work on how your music fits, or if you're not going to have music or whatever. Like, all of it makes a difference. Let's see. World's decks come out after the first standard round on Friday. Okay. I know they submitted the decks on Wednesday, so I don't know if they were going to post them or not. Oh, today is Wednesday. Yeah, so they wouldn't be posted yet. Let's see. And don't underestimate the short form media people on Instagram Reels. And oh yeah, there's some people definitely blowing up on TikTok and Shorts. That's a good call out. Let's see. I have directories of YouTube and Twitch streamers on my Discord and watch what I can support. Yeah, you watch what you can. It's a lot of time. Yeah, Don says I do that all the time with playing videos in the background. Yeah, I feel you. Same thing from Jeff. Omega MTG says I did more support like that until I changed internet providers and got throttled. Oh, that's tough. That's tough. I will say this, like, I have Xfinity as my internet, or whatever they call it, Comcast, right? But the craziest thing is, my biggest thing being a creator, because I upload so much content, is like upload speed, right? Because for me, once it's past like 500 down, it's kind of all the same, really. But upload speed was a big deal. And like I upgraded to their best plan, which was only like 20, I think, 20 or 50. I don't remember. But I was looking at other options and they were like, hey, we're working on some stuff to upgrade our speeds or whatever. And like, I'm like, all right, I'll believe it when I see it. Earlier this year, man, when I got the upgrade and I got like 500 up, oh boy, that felt like, y'all have no idea. Upload speed when you're a creator is, oh, it's so good. Like the fact that I can load a like 40-minute YouTube video to YouTube and have it processed and everything in like 30 minutes or less. Oh, crazy. Like it's so nice. It makes the flow of work so much easier. Wooly the Pac-Mac says, it's tough. I'm trying my best to get into it. I feel you. Content is tough, right? And to the point that I started doing consultations for people, and one of the things that's happened a lot, is that folks kind of get shell shocked, right? When you break down their content, you show them what they're doing wrong or could do better, or things they should know, or how to read their analytics or whatever. They start to kind of go like, oh, like, oh, this is going to be a nice side hustle, but it's also going to take some time, right? They're looking for shortcuts that sometimes just don't exist, right? You just gotta go through the process and play the game and learn what you learn, and it'll get there. But I think a lot of people don't understand that when they start. I think, and I get it, right? You hop on and you see this person on Twitch that's got, I don't know, 500 people watching them or whatever, and you're like, oh, this is easy money. But then you don't realize that person's also plotting their streams out 2 or 3 weeks in advance, right? If they have stuff for promos or with brand sponsorships, they're getting all those graphics done, right? They're figuring out how their daily schedule needs to go. There's news that came out. They're figuring out how to cover it and talk about it. Like they got notes and a run sheet that they're going over, right? There's a bunch of stuff that happens a lot of times for people to get to those levels. Meg MT says, I used to leave a playlist of streamers playing. Oh, yeah. But at night, but you drove your wife nuts. Oh, okay, that's fair. Like when it's time to go to bed, just turn everything off. I don't blame you. Boombox says, takes time to build a fan base too. That's true. That's true. Honestly, I'm gonna tell y'all something, and this isn't CFP related. This is just content related. Don't focus on trying to go viral when you first start. I think it looks good, and everybody thinks that's the play. But there's 2 issues with it. The first is you're going to be inviting a bunch of people in to see the worst version of you, right? You're never going to be better or be worse than you are when you start. And 2, you're not going to be in a position to take advantage of that many people showing up, right? You're not going to have merch stuff ready. You're not going to have brand deals you can profit from. You're not going to have Amazon links and sponsorship, product stuff all set. Like, you're going to miss an opportunity where all those people would come find you. They're going to see the worst version of you, and you weren't even able to make money off of it, right? So work on your craft, building your audience, also building the right audience that you speak to, that cares about the type of content you do, cares about your voice, your opinions. That's what you want, because those people will be the most engaged, right? Those will be the people that buy your merch down the road. Those are going to be the people that want to come hang out with you when you're at events or whatever, right? Not the extra 10, 20, 30,000 people that just came because of one video and then don't care about your stuff after that. All right. We're going to take a couple more questions and then we'll probably call it good. So Panthro says, I understand you helped Jay Villain a lot to get started on content creation. What would that look like if you were to help someone else out like myself? Oh man, I didn't realize Jay gave me credit for helping him out. I mean, I probably gave like bits of advice, and I do have a Discord that me and Jay are in. So if he has questions or whatever, and maybe he needs a contact or something like that, I've helped him out. But I mean, he's done most of the stuff on himself because like I couldn't tell you how to set up like a VTuber and all that other stuff that he does, right? He's carved his own little lane and he's doing fine. But if anybody wants help, this wasn't meant to be a promotional thing, but yeah, you can message me and I do paid consultations if you want to get help, and we can just break stuff down and go over a lot of stuff if you want to. I do 2 hours for the first one, and then if you want to do stuff after that, we can decide how much time you need or not. Or, you don't like my advice, you don't pay for too much. If you do love my advice, you can pay for more later. But yeah, I don't take credit for Jay Villain's stuff. Like he's worked hard on his own. Like he puts a lot of stream time in. He, really is trying with some creative different stuff. He has his own little catchphrases and things with his like and subscribe werewolf thing. Like he's doing his own thing. He's doing a good job. Like again, I might have done one or two things that helped him out when he had a question, but I wouldn't say that like I deserve any credit for him in content creation. He's mostly done that on his own. All right, y'all. I think we're all good. This looks like it kind of covers everything. I think we answered all the questions, unless there's any like pressing, very last second questions about the Commander format panel. I will answer those on the way out. But I think we've covered most of the bases. If I could make a couple of quick sales pitches, if y'all would be so kind, I'm going to tell you about Misty Mountain Gaming. If you haven't checked them out, go do so because they have some of the sweetest nerd stuff if you want to check it out. And right now would be a good time to shop because I have a code that'll save you 10% and they'll give your boy a kickback if you go buy anything over there. So you can use code HalloweenDragon and that'll save you money there. I think I posted earlier. Also, if you want to check my merch and support me, I have some really cool, like, I'm your Huckleberry, be different, so outwork everyone, which I have on some stuff. So I have some really fun and cool merch. You should check that out. It supports me, and it's all decent quality because I test it all before I put it up there. So you should go check that out if you want to support me. And most importantly, if you don't follow me on YouTube, do so. I put content out literally every single day. We are now over 4.5 years straight of content every single day that we've had go up on YouTube, which is awesome. Things are still going strong. And if you want to support me with a membership, as much as it's cool to do it on Twitch, if you have your free one, great, I'll take that. But if you are going to pay for a subscription, please do it on YouTube. We get to keep a little more from each subscription. And I have some really cool rewards for my levels on YouTube. And some of them are as low as 99 cents if you want to come support me over there. And you get to help kind of dictate what's on the channel, which is super sweet. But yeah, all that being said, I think the Commander format panel is off to the right start. Again, I think this is a very good group of people. Obviously, some people having experience from before on the rules committee or the Commander advisory group. Some being brand new people brought into the fold, which I think is good. Representation from around the world. If you're a competitive player, if you're a casual player, if you're a collector, if you like certain types of content, formats, I feel like we're covering most of the bases. I don't think there's anything somebody should want out of the format and can't find at least one or two people on the panel that they know aren't going to bat for them. You know what I mean? And that's good. And I think also, having Gavin Verhey be our point of contact for the Commander format panel is also very good. I think not only is he a good dude, I think he's also very passionate about Commander, and he really wants our input. And I think that's very important. That if you're going to bring these people in, bring them in because of their expertise and listen to what they have to say. And he's encouraging us. Bring your ideas, have your opinions. Like we should, if we disagree, talk about it, right? If we disagree publicly with the decision, that's fine. We should talk about it. Because again, that might be part of the discussion and the feedback we get back. So they're not trying to stomp any of that out. I think this is a very good first step. Hopefully things stay positive as we go forward. And, whatever decisions come from it, I'm confident they'll at least be well-reasoned, well-thought-out, well-researched decisions. And I think that's what's important. But yeah, all that being said, if you're going to be in Vegas, come say hi. I have some giveaways. Should be a fun time. You can catch me, take a picture, sign stuff, play a game. I don't know, whatever's available. We'll see. But yeah, it's going to be a fun time. But I got to get out of here. I got to go work on some things so I can get on a plane to Vegas tomorrow and then see y'all this weekend. So yeah, it's going to be a crazy time. But if you want to talk about the Commander format, panel stuff in person, just let me know. Come on by. We can do that. But yeah, wherever y'all are watching, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, because I know there's y'all from all over the world, which is great. Really appreciate everything. I'm glad the chat was awesome, that y'all were well behaved, because I know some people feel some kind of way about stuff. So I always appreciate that. And if I can ask anything, with everything going on in the world, take care of yourself and your family. Remember to be awesome. Most importantly, though, be awesome to each other. I'll catch y'all.